218 years before Christ. The Mediterranean world is still at peace, but only on the surface. 20 years earlier, the First Punic War ended in disaster for Carthage. Defeated by Rome, they lost their political influence over Sicily and Sardinia, and were crushed under massive war indemnities. Rome emerged richer, more confident, and firmly established as the dominant power in Italy. Carthage adapted. Cut off from the Mediterranean Sea, it turned west, toward Hispania. There, the Barcid family rebuilt Carthaginian power through conquest, silver mines, and loyal armies. At the center of this effort stands Hannibal Barca, trained for war since childhood and determined to challenge Rome on land. Rome watches closely. The Republic is no longer defensive. It is expanding, absorbing allies, projecting influence beyond Italy. Among Rome's rising leaders is Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, a commander who will soon redefine how Rome fights its wars. But this conflict will not be decided by Rome and Carthage alone. To the north and west, new political figures are emerging among the Iberian, Gallic, and Germanic tribes. Leaders capable of uniting peoples once divided. Powers both Rome and Carthage underestimate, lost in the blinding glare of their rivalry. Welcome to this new playthrough of Rome Total War, the board game. In this new game, 2 human players will take control of Rome and Carthage, and will be fighting for supremacy over the western part of the Mediterranean world. We will play this game with 3 more bot factions on the map: the Iberian Tribes, the Gallic Tribes, and the German Tribes. All these factions will be bot factions, which we will operate according to the bot system I have presented in a previous video. Feel free to check it out if you want more information about this bot system. This bot system could be used in a lot of configurations. In a full map with the core factions or in a half map with the core game factions, either the West version sending Macedonia to Spain, or the East version sending the Gallic tribes to Anatolia, acting as Galates, and Carthage more recent red in Egypt. It is a full video explaining everything you need to know so that you can operate your bot from agent to spending phase with a lot of examples. The Gallic tribes are a faction from the core game, but both the German and the Iberian tribes should come later with the faction booster. Because we have not received it yet, I have decided to do small homemade placeholders for those factions. If you are interested, you can check this little presentation video that will review each unit card and compare them to the existing core faction units, explaining the choice made regarding balance. To make it short, those 2 factions are tribes, factions, meaning they share some similarities with the Gallic tribes. A human player would face the same tribal limitation that will be progressively lifted later in the game, but it won't apply to the bot. They will also have a weaker navy and will never reach siegecraft nor artillery units. In terms of units, well, I was trying to find a balanced way so that these 3 tribes have different rosters and different playing experience. At the end, I have decided that the German tribes should have elite infantry units and excellent terrain archers, but that they will suffer from weak and actually almost non-existent cavalry units, a weakness they can overcome by accessing nearby mercenary regions such as Campus Scythia and Campus Sarmatia. On the other hand, Iberia will stand out with excellent and affordable cavalry units, but their infantry is a bit weaker despite having solid skirmishers. In the middle of these, the Gallic tribes, a core game faction, should stand out as the most versatile tribes. Nothing elite, but no weakness neither if you compare them to their neighbors. Well, as I said, those are small homemade placeholders, so I could totally adjust them later if I feel the balance is not good enough. Anyway, feel free to check the whole video about these factions. And now, let's start our playthrough. To set up the game, Carthage and Rome will be given their usual home regions, both starting with a 12 gold tax income. In the north, the Germanic tribes will start with 6 regions, north of the Alps and east of the Rhine River: Tulliferdum, Vicus Gothi, Budorgus, Uberzus, Casurgis, and Istros. West of the Rhine banks, the Gallic tribes will start with 6 regions as well: Nemeticum, Cenabum, Darioridum, Leminum, Alesia, Lugdunum. And finally in the west, the Iberian tribes will start with 6 regions as well: Bokhara, Asturica, Numantia, Saguntum, Osca, Tolosa. The two human players will start the game with 3 gold in their treasury, the usual starting army, and the usual starting general stars of the core game. As we did in our last playthrough, human players will freely choose the name and traits of their general, allowing for more consistency when getting promotions. We will skip the little market rule we had last time, it was a bit useless, and we will play with the whole 16 markets, barracks and walls available and the 14 roads. This being said, let's go. And our game starts with our first initiative phase. At this stage, no human player wants to bid gold. And Carthage wins this first initiative phase with a 12. Okay. Well, Carthage will start the game with a common border with the Iberian Tribes, hence an already serious threat of war at turn 1. It is the only common border in the game so far, but it was hard to spread the Iberian without a direct contact with Carthago Nova or Córdoba. Okay, so the Iberian tribes are likely to start a war against Carthage in any case, and the Barca family should stand ready for that. However, the quick win for Carthage will be to expand into Numidia and Cyrene, and Hannibal may want to control the whole Africa before marching deeper in Iberia. In other words, stationing a defensive army in Hispania may be enough to handle the tribes for this first turn. Okay, Carthage decides to start the turn and to play clockwise so that Rome will play after all the bots. Let's go. And we now move to our first agent phase. Carthage draws a treaty with untimely death, a riots with pirate raid, a bribe with inspired general, a sabotage with determined troops, and a riots with regional revolt. Already exciting cards. Okay, he will use the treaty and keep the rest. Those little German tribes far in the north look like the most relevant counterpart for a friendly stance. However, he will not be able to reach them in this turn. Should he rather use his treaty with the Gallic tribes then? Okay, let's do that. One of his agents is deployed in Tenes, sails to Numiticum for 4 movement points, uses his treaty card here, with the Gallic tribes automatically accepting a friendly stance, and uses his last movement point to reach Bavacum. Yeah. In my previous playthrough, we may have made some mistakes in how we move agents. Like letting agents end their turn in the middle of the sea, or using movement points to do actions. Well, anyway, so that should be the proper way to operate the agent. Carthage ends his turn here, and will sell no cards, keeping the pirate raid, the inspired general, the determined troops, and the regional revolt. But is Carthage turn already over? Wait, they still have to roll for bots. First, the trade test. The Carthaginian player will roll 2 white dice, 1 green and 1 red die. He rolls 2 wounds and a blank, scoring 4 points. He will then be able to trade with the Gallic tribes, earning 3 gold from that trade. But wait! Are the other bots sending pirate raids? Carthage rolls a black die and gets a blank. Nothing from Rome neither? Good. That is 3 more gold in his treasury. For the nasty cards now, Carthage gathers 3 black dice and 2 white ones and rolls a wound and 4 blanks. That's only 2 points, so nothing happens. And now to Rome. Rome draws a protest with untimely death, a mercenary with prepared battlefield, a spy with forced march, a spy with difficult travel, and a trade with difficult travel. Not as good cards as Carthage, but also easier cards to use at this early game stage. Oh, because Rome plays after the bots and not before them, we decide he will start his turn with bots rolls, so that he cannot take advantage of a better diplomatic stance. So, trade roll, and that's a 6. Rome can trade with 2 bots. It does not matter who, it is 2 gold per trade, so 4 gold in its pocket. But wait! Rolling a black die gives a wound. One of the bot raids has its gold on 1 trade, then losing 1 gold. But wait again. Carthage plays another pirate raid, stealing 1 more gold from Rome, and another gold from one of the bots. Rome is left with 2 gold, while Carthage earns 2 gold as well. And now for the nasty cards. Ouch! That is 7 points. So, a disease and a protest. Since there is no army on the map, we agree that the disease is not applicable. The Carthaginian player then decides to send the protest to Perugia, lowering Roman tax income. Okay, now back to Rome for using his own cards. Okay, for sure he will use the protest and the trade. His first agent is deployed in Roma and sails to Carthago where he spreads some protests. His second agent is deployed into Roma and sails to Carthago Nova before marching north to Numancia, where he plays a trade card. Rome earns 2 gold with that trade. The agent then uses the remainder of his movement points to reach Burdigala. Rome sells his 2 spy cards for 2 gold and will keep the mercenary card for later. And we now can move to our first taxation phase. At this early stage, both Rome and Carthage earn 11 gold. Ready for our first campaign phase? Let's go. And it is up to Carthage to start this first campaign phase. We already discussed it during initiative. Carthage will look to achieve full control over Africa, keeping only a defensive stance in Spain against the Iberian tribes. But first, Carthage must define its generals. Hannibal Barca will take the lead of Army 1 and will receive the traits mercenary loyalty and scouting expert. Then Hasdrubal Barca will lead Army 2, Mago Barca Army 3, while Ghizkhan, an outsider of the Barca family, will take command of Army 4. Okay, it is a bit annoying, but given the risk of Iberian tribes invasion, Hannibal may have to waste his time on a defensive position in Spain. In case of war, his army would attract the bot and he may get the full benefit of his 4 stars on the battlefield. Then Hasdrubal will have to deal with the conquest of Numidia, starting with Dimidi, where he rolls a blank, a wound and a special, only losing a Numidian cavalry. He then uses his second movement point to reach Nept, where he rolls a blank and a wound, and his last movement point to march back north to Sala, where he rolls a blank and a skull, losing a Libyan spearman. Good. Numidia is now under Carthaginian control. Back on the campaign map, Fleet 1 and 2 are both deployed into Mare Africanum and merged into one full fleet of 5 ships, which is left patrolling. The African coast is now protected. Last but not least, Macamades and Cyrene. Will Mago be able to submit them in one turn? Mago is deployed in Lepsis and marches to Macamades, where he rolls 2 wounds, losing a Libyan spearman. He will stop here for this turn, and Ghizkhan will remain undeployed. And we now move to the Iberian Tribes bot. Okay, first, will it start a war with Carthage? Because the bots have 2 regions next to Carthage, they will throw 2 green dice and they rolls a skull and a blank. All across Iberia, the tribes are gathering. They need to organize themselves and fight together if they want to push back the Carthaginian invaders before it is too late. The Carthaginian player updates its stance with the Iberian tribes to war. Well, there is a Carthaginian army at the border, and the bot will be able to pool 6 HP to attack it, so it is time for our first battle. Army 1 and 2 are deployed in Numancia, and Army 1 marches south, defying Hannibal Barca in the Battle of Cordoba. But wait, does Hannibal want to engage in this battle? Despite his 4 stars, he may be a bit outnumbered in that battle because the bot attacks by pooling 2 armies. He may let them roll for Cordoba first, and engage them deeper in the south in Gades. Okay, he could have simply directly ended his turn there, but it doesn't matter now, it's just too late. Let's try to retreat. But first the Roman player will roll a die to see if the bot draws an action card, as it may be an inspired general, increasing his general roll. A die is rolled and we get a special. The bot indeed has an action card to play. Let's roll another die to know which one. A special again. The bot can use a disease in this turn. I did not mention it in my bot video, but we decided that each bot can only draw an action card once a turn, to avoid using multiple action cards, especially in case of multiple fights with the same army. Before we roll for evasion, a disease is sent against Hannibal Barca, who randomly loses a Libyan spearman. Not the worst draw, but still. He is now reduced to only 4 main battle cards. He should have been deployed in Gades. Let's hope he will survive this turn. That is still far, but if he can retreat up to Tigny, he may then be able to join his forces with Hasdrubal. This game really does not start well. Okay, let's roll for evasion. But first, both Iberian armies need to at least reveal their general stars. Okay, Cordoba is a 1 terrain element region and we are still in turn 1. Rome rolls 2 skulls, a wound and a special for the bot. 9 points. The first army is led by a 2-star general. He rerolls for the second one and rolls 2 blanks and 2 wounds. This army will be led by a 3-star general. Okay, so Carthage wants to retreat. It will be a yellow die from Hannibal against a green die from the Iberian bot. But wait. Army 1 is leading the attack. Should the bot not rather use a white die? Okay, Carthage has a point here, let's use a white die. The bot will be able to pool troops only if the battle is engaged. Hannibal rolls a wound and the bot a blank. The Carthaginian leader can safely retreat to Gades. In Cordoba, the bot immediately launches an assault on the Carthaginian home region. Well, time to talk about another adjustment I have made to my bot system. In my video, I have said that bots should use a green die per HP plus a fixed 5 white dice to launch for home regions. However, that may make sense for factions able to develop artillery, and only from turn 3 when they are in the second tiers, but not for the tribes. Moreover, if you know the general die, just use the general die. So here this army will roll 5 green dice because of its 5 HP, and 1 white die as Iberian tribes do not have artillery. Cordoba rolls a wound and a skull, costing 1 HP to the Iberian army, who rolls a skull, a wound, a special, and 3 blanks. That was close, but Cordoba falls under the Iberian tribes' hands. For the bot, the target remains unchanged. Hannibal. Army 2 uses 2 movement points to march south to Gades. Time for a new escape roll against a better general this time. And this time Hannibal rolls a wound against a special. The wound is still better than the special, and Hannibal is able to escape to Tignes. Okay, what a relief. Here he would be able to join with Hasdrubal and show a full 6 main battle cards army. How stupid he was to just wait for the bot at the border. Anyway. In Gades, the bot rolls 2 skulls, 2 specials and 2 blanks, taking down the city, who rolls a skull and a wound, costing him 1 HP. Well, the target is still the same. Army 1 uses its last 2 movement points to reach Hannibal in Tignes. This time the Carthaginian leader stands firm. It is time for a fight. Now that he has joined his forces with Hasdrubal, he will be able to bring 6 main battle cards and a skirmisher on the battlefield. Time to reveal the unit cards for each bot army. With 5 points, Army 1 will count 3 Eravasi painted warriors, 2 Scutari spearmen, 1 noble fighter and 2 Eravasi slingers. With 4 points, Army 2 will count 2 Eravasi painted warriors, 2 Scutari spearmen, 1 noble fighter, 1 Celtiberian cavalry, 1 Eravasi slinger, and 1 Iberian light cavalry. The Iberian tribes will also have developed mountain ambush, allowing them to add 1 mountain element to the battlefield. Well, do they really need it? Carthage is not good on terrain units, but those Iberian units aren't neither. We miss a bit of Lusitani warriors here. Also, the bot would be more at risk to draw a hill that will most probably benefit Hannibal. Let's not use it. Okay, so these 2 armies need to be reduced to the current HP level. For Army 1, he needs to remove 2 main battle cards. He will remove 2 Eravasi painted warriors. For Army 2, he needs to remove 3 main battle cards, and to replace the slinger as there is no more available. The Roman player chooses to remove 2 Eravasi painted warriors and 1 Scutari, and replace the slinger by a light cavalry. And we are ready for our first battle, the Battle of Tignes. In this battle, Culches, the leader of 28 cities across the Iberian Peninsula, has joined his forces with the young Celtiberian prince Alucio. Being more experienced at war, Culches will be leading the charge against the Carthaginian leader. For this battle, he has gathered 1 Scutari spearman, 1 noble fighter, 1 Celtiberian cavalry, and 1 light cavalry from his own army, and is joined by an Eravasi slinger and 2 more Scutari spearmen from Alucio. In front of him, Hannibal will fight with all his men, a citizen spearman, an Hispanic Scutari, an Hispanic cavalry, a pony cavalry, and a Numidian cavalry. He can count on reinforcements from Hasdrubal with one more citizen spearman and one more Hispanic scutari joining the fight. With his 3 stars, Culches draws a take the hill, a throw it out and in hidden pits. In front of him Hannibal draws an ambush reserve, an ambush, a dedicated bodyguards and a fight to death. Because the battle takes place nearby the Mediterranean Sea, we will place a major waterway on tile 7. We then draw one element from the mountain stack and we get a rocky ground one. There will be no tile reserved for cavalry only in that fight. Because he has less stars, it is now up to Culches to deploy, and because of the scouting expert trait of Carthage, he will have to reveal 2 units. Okay, the human player operating the bot is a bit unsure. How should he proceed now? The Iberian tribes do not have bad cards, to be honest. Despite being less good than the Gallic Solduri or the German Swordmaster, those noble fighters still have decent dice and good special effects. The Slinger is definitely good, but Culches knows that Hannibal will avoid any fight against a Slinger during the charge, if he sees any stacked units. So, what should he do? At the end, Culches decides to send his Slinger, stacked with a spearman, on tile 2, then to deploy his 2 noble fighters, his Celtiberian cavalry, and his light cavalry alone on tile 2. The Slinger and the spearman are revealed as Hannibal may anyway guess that those are Slingers, and 2 more spearmen are kept in reserve. Okay, interesting. The Slinger is a good one, but the spearman behind it doesn't look impressive. Also, Culches chooses not to deploy on the rocky ground, and he has kept 2 units in reserve. That ambush reserve card may turn out to be useful and Hannibal should keep a scutari in reserve. Unfortunately, the ambush will most likely be left unused. Okay, Hannibal decides to send his Numidian light cavalry, stacked with his pony cavalry, on tile 2. The special effect of the spearman may cancel his attack, but the Slinger will be vulnerable and the spearmen are not especially dangerous. Let's try. Hannibal then sends his Spanish cavalry on the other flank and fill the center with 2 citizen spearmen and 1 Hispanic scutari. Culches reveals his troops and we are ready for the fight. Hannibal is happy with the deployment. The 2 Iberian noble fighters are good, but he will enjoy favorable special effects on tile 2, 3 and 6. Let's roll. First, the skirmishers. On tile 2, the Iberian light cavalry rolls an X and a blank, wounding the Hispanic cavalry. On tile 6, the Slinger rolls a blank, while the Numidian cavalry rolls 2 blanks. Time for the charge. On tile 2, the Hispanic cavalry rolls a blank and an X, only wounding the light cavalry. On tile 3, the citizen spearman rolls a blank and a X, wounding the Celtiberian cavalry who rolls an X, wounding the citizen spearman as well. On tile 4, Culches will use his hidden pit card, lowering the dice of the spearman by 1 color. The noble fighter rolls a skull, while the spearman rolls 2 wounds, both units killing each other. But wait! Culches uses his tough it out card, canceling all Carthaginian dice on that tile. Form up. Hold your ground. The noble fighter survives the fight and that is 1 kill to none for the Iberian tribes. On tile 5, the Hispanic scutari rolls a X, wounding the noble fighter who rolls a blank. Finally, on tile 6, Hannibal decides to join the fight early in the charge. He and the pony cavalry roll a blank, an X and another blank, only wounding the Slinger, while the spearman rolls 2 wounds, killing the Numidian cavalry. And that is 2 kills to none for the Iberian tribes. The charge is over, and the remaining skirmishers may now leave the battlefield. They have played their part. Okay, this battle is not well engaged for Carthage. Will those Iberian tribes step a foot on Africa? Wait, the fight is not over yet. Hannibal plays his ambush reserve card, and Culches must let go one of his reserve spearmen for an out-of-the-battlefield fight on a difficult terrain against the Carthaginian scutari. But wait! Can he combine his ambush reserve card with an ambush card? Reading the card, it looks like so. Hannibal rolls a green die and gets an X, wounding the spearman before the fight started. The scutari then rolls an X, killing the spearman who rolls 2X, killing the scutari as well. Ouch! What a bad luck. And that is 3 kills to 1 for the Iberian tribes. Carthage misses a good opportunity there. Carthage is left with no unit in reserve, while Culchas can send his last spearman on tile 2. Carthage is then left outnumbered on the battlefield with the noble fighter on tile 4 being able to support either tile 3 or 5. Being the highest ranked general, Hannibal has initiative. He immediately activates tile 3. His citizen spearman rolls a wound and a blank, killing the Celtiberian cavalry who only rolls a blank, doing nothing. 3 kills to 2, and the wounded spearman is now free of any support from the noble fighter. Culchas then immediately activates his noble fighter as a support for tile 5. The noble must lower their die of 1 color and still rolls a skull, killing the Scutari. For kills to 2. There are 2 more tiles to roll and Hannibal needs to win them both if he wants to secure a draw here. On tile 6 he and his pony roll a wound, a skull and a blank, but are nullified by the spearman rolling 2 specials. This battle will be a defeat for sure for Carthage. On tile 2 finally, the Hispanic cavalry rolls a special and a blank, doing nothing against a close formation unit, while the spearman rolls a wound and a blank, killing the Spanish cavalry as well. 5 kills to 1, and the remainder of the Carthaginian army disorderly retreats from Tigny. With this simple victory Culchas is able to get back his Celtiberian cavalry. Wow! What a humiliation for Hannibal. He was casually waiting at the border, thinking he will farm easy victory points against these stupid bots, thanks to his 4 stars, and so what? He then turned into panic mode, retreating and retreating again until he loses against the tribes on African soils. Hannibal decides to retreat to Dimidi, inside Numidian territory, with his 2 left main battle cards. Because of the heavy losses of the Battle of Tigny, Hasdrubal's army is also reduced to 2 main battle cards, but at least it did not collapse. In this battle Alusio Army 1 has faced no loss, while Culchas only loses a Scutari spearman, and is now a 2 main battle card army. Alusio will now roll for Tigny with 4 green dice and a white die. The Carthaginian home region rolls a skull and a wound, taking down 1 spearman, while Alusio rolls 2 skulls, a wound and 2 specials, more than enough to conquer 1 more Carthaginian home region. And that's it. The Iberian tribes set foot on Africa. Okay, the good news is that the Iberian tribes will not be able anymore to reach Carthaginian armies during this turn. Indeed, both Army 1 and 2 now lacks the movement points, and a new army will need to be deployed from starting Iberian territories, and will then be too far as well. So Hannibal and Hasdrubal won't be crushed, outnumbered, in the African desert. At least not this turn. Given the HP of Army 3 and 4, only Army 3 will be deployed for more conquest, and his target will be Carthago Nova. Well, that is a risky move even if automated for the bot, but it may also pay off, removing any opportunity for Carthage to deploy back an army in Spain, behind the front lines of the Iberian tribes. Army 3 is then deployed in Saguntum, and walks south to Carthago Nova. Here the bot rolls 3 blanks and 2 wounds, and is pushed back by the 3 wounds rolled by Carthago Nova, costing him 2 HP. Good. Carthago Nova will stand for this turn, which is also a good news for the Carthaginian finances. And that is done for the Iberian bot. Ouch! What a turn. Let's see what the 2 other bots have for us. Okay, now to the Gallic tribes. No need of diplomatic role, let's focus on expansion. Priority should of course be the south of Britain Islands. Army 1 is deployed in Nemeticum, crosses the straits to Londinium where it rolls a skull and a blank, losing 1 HP, and then marches north to Eboracum where it rolls a skull and a wound, losing 1 more HP. Reduced to only 3 HP, it retreats to Londinium. Dumnonia being the priority, Army 2 is deployed in Nemeticum and uses 2 movement points to reach Dumnonia, where it rolls a special and a blank, losing no HP and ending its turn here. Okay, with 4 HP Army 3 is still available for more conquest. All the region west to the Rhine River will cost more movement points to reach than those in the south, and Bavacum is especially well connected to its current territory because of the sea tile. That's the target. His third army is deployed in Nemeticum and marches north to Bavacum, where it rolls a special and a skull, losing 1 HP. It then retreats inside its own border into Nemeticum. And that is done for the Gallic tribes. Let's move to the German ones. Okay, they share a border with the Gallic bot. Should they start a war here? A green die is rolled and we get a blank. The German tribes won't attack yet the Gallic. Too bad for Rome, that would have been perfect, keeping those stupid barbarians busy in the north so that he can quietly expand and farm tax income in the south. Okay, then the German tribes will focus on expanding into independent regions. For them, the most attractive region is Aquincum, requiring 3 movement points to be reached for the Roman Empire and being connected to 2 of their territories. Army 1 is deployed in Istros and crosses the Danube south to Aquincum, where it rolls a special and a blank, expanding into the region with no loss. The priority should now be Virunum, but Army 1 lacks movement points to enter the Alps. Army 2 is then deployed in Casurgis and spends 2 movement points to enter the Alps in Virunum, where it rolls a special and AX, losing 1 HP in the conquest. With 3 HP left, it should normally avoid ending the turn on a border, but here it has no choice. Iavuvum being now the new priority, Army 3 is deployed in Uberzus and enters the Alps in Iavuvum, where it rolls AX and a special, losing 1 HP as well. And now, for the sake of efficiency, Army 1 should use its last movement points to enter Segestica, where it rolls 2 blanks, losing no HP. And that is done for the German tribes and done for the bots. We are now back to humans with Rome to end this first campaign turn. Okay, wow. Those German tribes will soon be a problem, that is for sure. Okay, for this turn he should really avoid having any borders either with the German nor with the Gallic tribes. Next turn there is still a good enough chance of seeing a conflict start up there, especially if the Gallic plays before the Germans and keeps expanding around the Rhine River. Let's hope. Once they start fighting each other, he will be able to have borders with them with no fear, so that he can farm some gold income and put all his focus on the south, where Carthage has a bad start against the Iberian tribes. Also, those little islands of Carolus and Eulalia are really not attractive in the core game, but here. The good point is that it won't create any border issues with bots, so that is worth considering. Okay, his first action will be to pressure Carthage on his fleet. On the long run, Carthage will enjoy better naval tech, so it is crucial to not let him accumulate ships. Especially after a disastrous first turn against the Iberian tribes, building back its fleet and developing naval tech should not be his priority, and engaging in an early naval battle may discourage him to spend there. Rome sends both of its fleet into Mare Tyrannum and merges them into a full 5-ships fleet. Rome then officially declares war on Carthage and sends his fleet against the Carthaginian ones, in a match of equal, 5 trimers against 5 trimers. Rome rolls a skull, a wound, 2 specials and a blank, while the Carthaginian fleet defends itself with 3 wounds and 2 blanks. Ouch! Both fleets lose 1 ship, but that is a victory for Rome. The Carthaginian fleet has to retreat. With still 4 ships, the Carthaginian player prefers not to retreat to a port and send his fleet to Syrtis Major. With still 1 movement point left, Rome attacks him again in Syrtis Major. This time Rome rolls a skull and 3 specials, while Carthage rolls a skull, 2 specials and a blank. Once again, each fleet loses 1 ship, and once again the Carthaginian fleet has to retreat, this time to Mare Africanum. Okay. Time to allocate generals to his armies. Army 1 will be led by the 4-star general Marcus Claudius Marcellus, the Sword of Rome. His main mission may be to handle the tribes in the north. Army 2 will then be led by the 3-star Quintus Fabius Maximus, the Shield of Rome, with the main mission of expanding into Sicily, and keeping a defensive stance here just in case. Finally, Army 3 will be led by the 3-star Gaius Claudius Nero, and Army 4 by the 4-star Publius Cornelius Scipio. Scipio will start with a smaller army, but the goal is to quickly build a good enough army around him and to keep flexibility for his deployment later in the game. Once again, expansion won't be super exciting this turn for Rome, as he wants to avoid having borders with the tribes during the next turn. Marcellus is deployed in Perugia, where he performs police actions, removing the unrest marker here. He then marches north to Genu, where he rolls 2 blanks, submitting the region with no loss. And Marcellus will stop there for this turn. In Croton, Fabius is deployed and crosses the straits to Syracuse, where he rolls a wound and a skull, losing an Italian infantry. He then uses his second movement point to reach Lilybaeum, where he rolls a blank and a wound, and uses his last movement point to walk back to Syracuse. And that is done for Rome. He will not move anymore during this turn. Okay, this first campaign turn is now over. The 2 revealed Iberian armies must be turned back to HP stacks. Army 1 will be worth 4 HP and Army 2 will be worth 3 HP. And we can now move to our first spending phase, starting with Carthage. Well, the Barcid family did not have a good turn. They may have been luckier with the diplomatic role, but once the Iberian tribes started a war against them, it was predictable they will lose some region in Spain. What was not predictable was this defeat in Tigny, and here Hannibal feels he has been a bit unlucky. He had slightly better units, slightly better dice, a deployment with favorable special effects, 1 more star. At the end, he feels he was really not helped by the dice rolls on the battlefield. The problem is that this defeat was quite costly. He lost citizen spearmen, Hispanic Scutari, and all those units cost 3 gold to recruit. Well, what is done is done. Now he must look forward, and find the way to come back in the game. How should he allocate his 19 gold? Trade fleet costs 2 gold, but may break even in the next 1 to 2 turns, especially because there is no chance that he starts a war against the Gallic or the Germans. It is an annoying but necessary spending, and extra agent is the same. At this early stage, the rest of his available tech is most likely unnecessary. Let's move to building. Okay, the good news is that the bot will for sure build a market in Tigny. If he can take back the region on the next turn, that would be a cost-efficient way to improve his trading revenue. On his side, should he allocate 4 gold to markets now? In Spain, Carthago Nova has pushed back an Iberian attack. However, he feels building defensive buildings there would be useless. The bot will automatically lay siege, and he will lose for sure the income, while the 3 red dice may prove difficult for the bot to conquer. Okay, given his limited budget, let's recruit before buildings. In Africa, Hasdrubal and Hannibal should be able to pool a full army if they are attacked by the bot again, or if they want to counterattack. It would also be good that Mago can achieve the conquest of Cyrene before walking back west, but for this he needs 2 more main battle cards. On the fleet side, he knows exactly what Rome is trying to do, but the financial pressure is too strong for now. He will have to put naval recruitment on hold. At the end, 12 gold are spent to recruit 2 Libyan spearmen with Hannibal, 1 with Hasdrubal, 2 with Mago, and 2 Numidian cavalry, 1 with Hannibal and 1 with Hasdrubal. The 2 last gold are used to build a market in Carthage. Let's hope he will have a lot of trades in the next turns, because he definitely invested for it. And now to the bots, starting with the Iberian bot. Okay, with 9 regions under his control and no market, the Iberian bot has a 9-point budget. Because we are 2 human cowards, we decided to give no flat revenue to the bots, so the Iberian tribes will stay with this 9-point budget. Another little adjustment that we have done is that HP cost 1 up to 4, 2 to reach 5 and 3 to reach 6. For the fleets, each HP still costs 1 point. For the increasing cost of buying HP into armies, you can see it as a proxy of buying cheap units first, then more expensive ones. First, he should spend 2 points to build 2 markets. Priority in the port, so Tigny, then in the least accessible for foreign factions, and maximizing connection with his own territory, so Asturica. Then, he should use points to replenish armies, but wait. Carthage uses a regional revolt on Gades. Left with no Iberian army, the region loses its Iberian faction marker, and is back being a Carthaginian region? Well, we guess so, as in the core game you are not supposed to put faction markers on home regions. I put them in the video just because it makes it clearer, but we both agreed that in that case the region should be a Carthaginian once again in case of regional revolt, as it is a home region. Ouch! That is a good one for Carthage. he just gets back 1 gold tax income and, more important, he cuts the supply line to Iberian armies 1 and 2. How will the Iberian bot spend his HP then? Well, then in this case the whole 7 points are spent to bring army 3 to 6 points. Okay, next bot. The Gallic bot will have 10 points to spend in this first turn. 2 points are spent to build markets in Londinium and Nemeticum. Then 2 points are spent to bring back army 2 and 3 to 4 HP, and 6 points are spent to bring back army 1, 2 and 3 to 5 HP. With 10 gold to spend as well, the German tribes will build 2 markets in Budorges and Istros for 2 gold. Then 2 points are used to bring back army 2 and 3 to 4 HP, 4 points to bring them back to 5, 3 points to bring back army 1 to 6, and 1 gold to bring army 4 to 4 HP. Okay, and it is now for Rome to end this first spending turn. On the tech tree, he will spend 7 gold to develop all available technologies, immediately scoring 1 victory point. On the building side, he will build 1 market in Roma and 1 market in Brundisium, and immediately connect them with a free road, thanks to his road builder tech. For gold will be spent to recruit 2 more ships in Fleet 2. And finally, the 5 last gold will be used to recruit 1 Velite with Marcellus and 2 Italian infantry with Scipio. And that is done. That is the end of our first turn. Carthage is already on the ropes, driven out of Spain, beaten in Africa, and Hannibal himself forced into retreat. Not exactly the opening the Barcid family had in mind. But here's the real question. Is this the start of a collapse, or the beginning of a legendary comeback? The bots have shown their teeth. Iberians are on the offensive, the Germans are expanding fast, and the Gallic tribes are sitting right in the middle, ready to tip the balance of power. Next turn, borders will touch. Wars will trigger. If you want to see whether Hannibal can recover, or whether Rome will seize total control, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button, and drop a comment with your prediction. Comeback or catastrophe? See you in the next turn. The Mediterranean is about to catch fire.